All right, folks, so today we need to take a look at another rhythmic concept, and that is the notion of the dot. What I'm talking about is sometimes you're going to see music where you have a note that looks familiar. So, for example, you have a quarter note. Here it is. Here's my quarter note. And next to it, there will be a little dot. That dot, if it exists, it will always be just to the right side of the note, like this. Okay, and it just looks like a period. It'll be directly next to it. It's not going to be under it or over it or anywhere else. Those are different. Okay, if you see a dot right here, it changes the rhythmic value of the note. What it does is it adds half the value of whatever the note was. In other words, you multiply the length of the note by 1.5, and that tells you your new length. So, for example, quarter notes were 1 beat long. Okay, I'm going to add half of that and come up with my new length. What is half of 1? A half, right? 2 halves make a whole, half of 1 is a half. So 1 plus 1/2 equals 1 and a half. So a dotted quarter note is going to be 1 1/2 beats long. Okay, let's do it for half notes. So I'm going to add my dot. Okay, half of 2. What's half of 2? It's 1, right? Obviously. So I'm going to add 1, and my new value is 3. A dotted half note is 3 beats long. Okay, let's do it again. For a whole notes are 4 beats long. What's half of 4? 2. So I'll add 2. And my new value for my dotted whole note is 6 beats. Okay, but guess what? It's not ending there. You can also add dots to your smaller sized notes, and it changes those ones as well. So our 8th note is normally half of a beat long. If I add a dot next to it, what's half of a half? It's a quarter. So half plus a quarter. Hopefully we've reviewed our fractions sometime during math class. Half and a quarter is 3/4. So a dotted 8th note is 3/4 of a beat long. And if I wanted to, I could dot a 16th note, although you won't see them very often in music, but I could do it. So half of a quarter is an eighth, and therefore, altogether, I have 3/8 of a beat for a dotted 16th note. Like I said, though, it doesn't really happen very much. Okay, so we're going to do a little practice with writing in our rhythms with dotted notes. So here we have a dotted half note. We originally agreed a half note was 2 beats long. The dot adds half the value. Half of 2 is 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is 3 beats. By the way, I do have some 8th notes later, so I'm going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so I can handle those 8th notes later. Anyway, 3 beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and. 3 complete beats, right? Not syllables, beats. I have a quarter note here. That'll be beat 4. We know that quarter notes are 1 beat long. It also gets the and. Here we have a dotted quarter note. So a quarter note was 1 beat long. Half of 1 is a half. 1 plus a half is 1 1/2. Using these syllables, that's going to be 1 and, that's beat 1. And here's my half beat. It's beat 2, which puts this 8th note on the and this 8th note on 3. Now I have another dotted quarter note. It's going to be 3 syllables. Well, guess what? That's how many syllables I have left, because I just used 3. I have and 4 and still to go. So this is and, 4 and. All together, we can count and clap this. Ready and go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I almost screwed up there. Let's do it one more time. Ready and go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So just to do an example that uses some more dotted notes, some smaller ones. Here we have a dotted 8th note. Remember, an 8th note is normally half of a beat, and if we're saying 1 e and a 2 e and a 3 e and a 4 e and a, that would be 2 syllables. But we have the dot, so the dot adds 50% of 2. Now we have 3 syllables, so 1 e and will be our dotted 8th note. And then we have a 16th note here, and that is going to be all by itself. It's going to be a. And now we have, what is this? This is a quarter note. It's a whole beat, so it'll be 2E and a. Here we have a dotted quarter note. Okay, now let's think about this. If a quarter note is 4 syllables, because it's a whole beat, like the last one was 2E and a, right? Well, a dotted dot is going to add half the value. Half of 4 is 2, so this is going to be 6 syllables. Okay, this will be 3E and 4E. So that's what this is. 3E and 4E. And then we have just 2 16th notes left, and they're going to be and. Before we get to our next example, I just want to note that rests work exactly the same way the notes do. If there's a dot next to it, it adds 50% of the value. That right there is a whole rest with a dot next to it. So whole rests were 4 beats long. Half of 4 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. So this is now 6 beats long. Okay. This was a half rest. So half rest was 2 beats long. Half of 2 is 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. This is a 3-beat rest. There's a quarter rest right there, and it's 1 beat long. The dot makes it a beat and a half. There's an 8th rest. It was half a beat. Now it's 3/4 of a beat. Here's the 16th rest. It was a quarter of a beat. Now it's 3/8 of a beat. It works the same exact way as the notes. All right, we're going to go ahead and do a little practice writing in rhythms, considering that we have rests and notes with dots. So here we have a quarter rest, but it's got a dot next to it. Remember, quarter rests were 1 beat, so now it's going to be 1.5 beats. If we're counting 1E and a 2E and a, which we need to do because we have some 16th notes to deal with here, then it's going to be 1E and a, which is the first beat, 2E, which is the first half of the second beat. And that puts us to this 8th note, and the 8th note is and Mr. Sand, I forget, why are 8th notes 2 beats or 2 syllables when we are counting in this time? Because they're 2 16th notes. An 8th note is equal to 2 16th notes, and we have to count in 16ths because we have 16ths to deal with. Now we have a dotted 8th rest. We just said an 8th note was 2 syllables, so now we have the dot, which makes 3, because half of 2 is 1, 2 plus 1 is 3. 3, E, and. We have a 16th note all by itself here, that'll be a. And here I have 4 16th notes, 4, E, and a. Now this example has something that you might be wondering, which is, why is this 16th note not connected to these 16th notes? They're all 16th notes. Why not just bar all of them together with 5 in a row? The answer is, when they try to write music, they try to make it as readable as possible. So what they've done here is they've made it so that you could see the beats. That's hard because it's more than a beat, but if you look at it, that's beat 1. Beat 2 is part of this. This is the end of beat 2. There's beat 3. There's beat 4. If they barred this together, it would be really hard to distinguish beat 3 and beat 4 from each other. Fractions are hard. I don't want to do math.